King of Glory. Thank you for your love, for your goodness, for your kindness to these precious people who have tuned in to Grace Thoughts with you today. And you are welcome to our presentation for today, our Grace Thoughts, our mind renewal session today. And I hope and I believe that this session is going to bless you greatly. And one of the things we do here on Grace Thoughts is to help those who tune in and who watch these videos and who have come under grace to unpack or understand or have a greater insight into what's happening in their lives. At the same time, we know that not all who watch these videos are already under grace. So if they are not under grace, we begin to show them why the things that are happening in their lives are happening, and we show them what they are missing. So these are some of the things we do. Even those who are under grace, sometimes we want to reassure them, because grace can be unsettling. This wonderful gospel can be unsettling because a lot of us have come from a background of abuse. We've been abused by religion for so long that when we come under grace, it feels strange. So one of the things we do on Grace Thoughts is to reassure you that nothing is wrong with you. It's just that you're now living in freedom. It's like a prisoner. Imagine someone who has been in prison for a very long time, and then you come out. Trust me, you are coming out into a totally different world than you were used to while you were in prison. It's the same thing with grace. So that's one of the things we're going to do this evening. And if I would give a title to our session tonight, it will be, or today, depending on where you are, it will be Grace Does Not Accuse. Grace does not accuse. You see, I noticed this. The more I renewed my mind, the more I thought in line with the gospel, I began to find it very difficult to accuse people, even the worst of people. And whenever I do accuse people, it's like something just there's like an alarm on the inside that says that's wrong. When I say accuse, I'm talking about accusations about sinfulness, about morality issues. A lot of these morality issues, and then there's accusation and accusation. You just want to accuse people and accuse people and accuse people, and you find it on almost every side. Those who are under grace, sometimes when they are tempted, they want to accuse themselves or other members who are in their group of not being good enough, of being liars, of being cheats, and so on and so forth. And the same with those who are, when you think of those who are not under grace, you find yourself, when the temptation is heavy on you, is basic. I think it's of the devil and of religion. These two, I'll talk about it a little bit more. But you find yourself, when you find yourself accusing people out there of being evil, of being wicked, if you are saying the truth, is fine. By the way, I want us to get all the angles properly. If you are saying the truth about someone who is not under grace, that's fine. If you are saying the truth, let me give you an example. When Jesus looks at the religious people of his day, and he calls them children of the devil, he calls them things like hypocrites, he calls them whitewashed tombs, he calls them fools, he calls them murderers, he calls them a lot of things. But that's not an accusation. That is a truth that is supposed to draw you to him for salvation. I want this to be very clear before even we read. When you are under grace, when you talk to people who are under the law, you talk to people who are under religion, and you say the truth about them, the truth about them should not offend them. The truth about them should make them come to Jesus. That's the intention. When Jesus calls someone a whitewashed tomb, or calls you a hypocrite, or calls these guys whatever he calls them, fools, it's supposed to draw them to him, that he may become their righteousness. Okay, so this is kind of tricky. And when he talks to them about what they are doing and calls them these names, he is not presenting them in that way to the Father. In fact, to the Father, he presents them as ignorant. But to them, he presents them as evil and short. How do I put it? Like they come short of the righteousness that they have established for themselves, not a righteousness that the Father has established for them. So it's like he says to them, you fail according to your own exam. You've set an examination for yourselves and you have failed. Okay, so it's these two dimensions. You have to hold it properly. When you are speaking to those who are not of grace, those who are not believers, and you tell them certain things, you call them certain names, what you are telling them is you are not fulfilling the things that you claim to stand for. When it comes to those who are under grace, their righteousness is now of God. Their righteousness is of faith. Their righteousness is Christ Jesus. He is a person. He has become their righteousness. Therefore, you cannot, in good conscience and correctly, accuse them of any evil. When you say to them, for example, you say you are wicked, you are sinners, you are accusing Jesus. That's what you're doing. Because they are no longer claiming, they are no longer setting an examination for themselves, which they are trying to pass, which we call religion or the law. They are not. Okay? They are not at all. So you cannot accuse them of failing an exam which they are not taking. You know, it's like you can't tell me, for example, that I have failed an examination in biochemistry. I'm not taking biochemistry. You can't tell me I've failed an exam in University of London. I'm not even enrolled in the University of London. You see, so that you can't raise a moral accusation on a person whose righteousness is God, not himself. Right. So with all that, like a kind of a background, let's read, and I'm going to read for you from John chapter number 5, verses 45 to 47. John 5, 45 to 47. And Jesus is the one speaking here. And he's speaking to those who are under the law. He's speaking to those who are under the law. And he says to them, do not think that I will accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, on whom you have set your hope. For if you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words? You see? So this is Jesus speaking to those who are under the law, and he says to them, I will not accuse you. Grace does not accuse. See, the word accuse here means to charge against. To charge against. And when we say grace does not accuse, we're saying grace does not accuse you to the Father. Okay? Grace, it's not like God set a demand for you and you failed. because our God is not a demanding God. And we say this a billion times. God is not a demanding God. That's why Jesus, he doesn't just say, I will not accuse you. Remember, Jesus is grace. So he doesn't just say, I will not accuse you. He says, I will not accuse you to the Father. Grace will never accuse you to the Father. Grace will not bring a charge against you before the Father. That's the word accuse. The word accuse is, to be a plaintiff, to bring a charge, to speak openly about an offense. So it's a legal word. Imagine in a court, and then you are presented in a court, and then they charge you. And anybody who is going to charge you or bring a charge against you or accuse you, which is the word here, categoros, the person is going to say, according to the laws of a particular place, let's say the laws of the United Kingdom, the laws of Nigeria, the laws of the Republic of Congo, you have broken law ABC. Okay, so that's how normally people are accused. And Jesus says, I will not accuse you before the Father, because the Father has not given you a law. There is no set of demands that he has presented for you to keep. Then he says, but there is one who will accuse you. Who? He says, Moses. Because Moses, or what we call the law, or what I call here religion, has given you a set of rules that you are trying to follow. And these exams, I call them exams, that you set for yourself, which you call the law or religion, you cannot keep it. You cannot. You have failed, and therefore, he says, Moses will accuse you. Do you know the word accuse here, categoros in Greek, is used spiritually for only not two individuals, but two. I'm trying to look for a word that will bring, because one is an individual and the other one is a spirit. Okay, well, two individuals. Let's use that. So the word accuse is used for these two individuals in the Bible spiritually. And who are they? Moses and Satan. Only Moses and the devil. And of course, when we say Moses, we are talking about the law. Just like when we say Jesus, we are talking about grace. Okay, so it says Moses will accuse you. And again, as I said, Satan is also called categoros, the accuser of the brothers. The accuser. Satan will accuse us, try to throw these morality stones at us. And so only these two, Moses and Satan. So I began to now understand why it is that as I renewed my mind under grace, I began to find it difficult. And I'm sure you who are under grace, you are finding it more and more difficult to look at people, whether they are Christians or not. It's difficult for you to look at them from your point of view now as, evil people, as bad people. It's difficult. It just gets difficult. And more so in the presence of the Father. And I told you, I clarified in the beginning that there is a particular way you refer to people which is not an accusation in the legal sense that I'm talking about here. So he says, for if you believe Moses, verse 46, before that it says, on whom you set your hope. So a lot of religious people, they set their hope on their religion. They think that their religion will save them. They think if we keep these rules and we keep them meticulously and we are very diligent in keeping the rules of our denomination or the rules of our church or the rules of our belief system or the rules of whatever, all the rules we've set for us, they say to themselves, if we are diligent, then we shall be saved. Now, the problem is you can't keep those rules. And I can give you millions of examples of how you have failed, you are failing, and you will continue to fail to keep the rules you establish for yourselves in your religion or in the law. You can't. Just accept it. And that acceptance of it will tell you, if you are honest to yourself, you realize you are not keeping those rules and you can't keep it. Then that is supposed to bring you to your knees, bring you to Jesus so that he becomes your righteousness. And that's why he says, if you believed Moses, he's telling these guys who are saying, Moses, Moses, oh, our law, our religion, we are very strong in our religion. He says to them, you don't believe what you're doing. You don't believe in Moses. You don't believe in the law. You don't believe in the 10 commandments. You don't believe in the 600 commandments. You don't believe in all those things. If you did, you would be a follower of Jesus. Absolutely. You will be a follower of Jesus. Therefore, if you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me. How is it that Moses wrote of him? Not just by prophecy, but wrote of him that, like, in the sense that if you believe these laws, you will come to the realization that you cannot keep them. And then you will come to Jesus, be saved, and have life free of charge, have a free gift of righteousness. That's what he's telling them. He says, you don't believe, if you believe Moses, you would come to me. But he says, but if you do not believe his writings, how then will you be able to believe my words? And with this kind of understanding, if you go read again Matthew 5, 6, 7, where he talks about, he shows them this impossibility of keeping the law, which is supposed to bring them to him for salvation. If you go read that, then you see how all the gospels are the same. That Jesus is the one who brings the gift of true righteousness. Grace will not accuse us to the Father. Grace never accuses. It is not in the nature of grace to accuse. In fact, it's in the nature of grace to receive those that have been accused every day by the devil, accused of immorality and evil and failure and all kinds of bad things by the law. By the law. It is Jesus who comes to say, I receive you, I become your life, so that there will be no accusation against you, no charge against you in the presence of the Father. You are blessed.
Grace gives the license to proclaim his mercy to the whole world.